Hello, yes, another video for advanced Non Wib Wob strategy. Uh, Interesting one, this one, because sweepers. Why would you want to use a sweeper? Why would it make sense to use a sweeper? And what are the different roles you can use with a sweeper on this version? Now, first off, sweepers generally work better, or sweepers work better in a back three. Certainly centrally, you can be a back five obviously if you're going to use fullbacks as well. So let's just load up the preset. So we've got a sweeper here. Who is our sweeper in this team? I've actually got an interesting libero to use in this battle bravely against relegation team in Russia. He's called Bavkin. The first thing I would certainly be doing with him is having his arrow up into the AMC slot, or possibly the MC slot if I knew that he could actually play MC. But we're going to use this to start with. So I'd probably, if I saw him in my starting squad and he had quite nice attributes, which he does at this level in Russia, he's got high stamina, high work rate, he's going to be able to get up and down the arrow movement, he's got high dribbling. He's not great defensively, but that's not how we're going to be using him for this one. So this will be a libero use of a sweeper. So how would I kind of set up the team? So just make out I've put all the slots in. So why would I want to be using him here? Because you can certainly overload the midfield positions. He does, even though with the arrow he will still offer some cover there as well, certainly stopping the balls over the back. First thing you want to do is never use offside trap if your starting positions are sweepers. If, say for instance, you're doing something like this, then yes, you can use offside trap, but it kind of makes why you're wanting to use sweepers with the arrow movement not nonsensical to begin with, because you want them in a deeper starting position. First off though, why are sweepers important for Non Wib Wob? Quite simply because if your goalkeeper's not, when you're playing Non Wib Wob with an non Wib Wob goalkeeper, you're at a huge disadvantage against Wib Wob tactics or against some AI tactics that use Wib Wob tactics. So you can't actually, you're not in control of the defensive line, and also as well, your goalkeeper is just a standard goalkeeper. He's not going to rush out. There are settings that obviously can help. You can put your goalkeeper on pressing, style of passing you can change, and you can even try things like his marking with zonal that can actually work, or very occasionally it can work on against certain AI tactics which overload the centralised areas, like have three up front with an AMC. Extreme tactics like that, it can work, but generally I wouldn't. So I'd have him on no marking and probably normal tackling, and have him off press. That's how I usually use all my goalkeepers, even on a pressing tactic. Depending on the goalkeeper, like I think Dida on the AC Milan goalkeeper's got like out. He's got like really high work rate and stamina, so I always have him pressing as a goalkeeper. And I usually use sweepers with if I was going to be managing AC Milan anyway, because you've got Maldini, Costa Curta, is it Nesta as well? Yeah, you've just got an incredible variety to use. So this guy to start with, I'd just be looking at what his strengths are. Now 11 dribbling at this standard of league and team you have, you could probably have him run with ball, possibly even long shots. He's got high technique, he's got high agility as well. So this would just be for his use, but I'd have him on. I wouldn't have him on free roll because I don't think he's good enough for that. I would have him on. I'd either have him on forward runs and long shots, or I'd have him on run with ball, or I'd just have him forward runs with the arrow, depending on. You'd have to kind of watch the match stats over a few games. If he's taking too many long shots, then take him off. Same as if his dribbling's not too high. If it's like 0.6 or 0.8, then don't use him on dribbling. So that's something to sort out. Or you could even just have him on this. Set pieces, I'd have him forward, back, and you could even just leave him on free roll. if you're quite confident that you've got free roll and is hidden, or you're using a scouting tool which shows that. I know a lot of people play with the scouting tool, so that's something to consider. So what are the main advantages here if you're using a libero? Obviously the overloads in the attacking areas with the build up. Things which will help is if you've got quite a strong midfield, you could have a couple of them hold up the ball to slow down the plays to allow the sweeper to get forward. Same with wing backs, or you don't have to have obviously all four on hold up ball, but it'd be nice just to have one or two, just to play safe passes into him. It all depends on your player's attributes, obviously. If he was big, strong and physical, I'd want to be getting lots of crosses in, but for him, I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't have the wing backs on cross ball, depending on the forwards though. So if you had like a really big physical strikers, then yeah, you might want to have them on cross with ball. But anyway, this is just an example of a libero, so you just have him in the back on his own. Libero up to DMC, depending on where he can play from the sweeper movement. Midfield AMC, and you sometimes you do get the forward ones as well, which you can just go all the way up like that. Now with the back three themselves, you just use the two DCs in front of him as usual centre backs, unless they've got really good attributes and things like that. What are the advantages you can do with liberos? You can actually change the goalkeeper's passing to hit the libero. So depending on the libero's strengths, or if he's that good, you are setting him as playmaker, you might need to consider what kind of passing range you want your goalkeeper on. Alright, that's the first example. The most common one I use with Non Wib Wob for sweepers are double sweeper. Why do I do that? Obviously, you've got a much deeper defensive line. When you really want to keep a defender playing, say like you've got a really great old defender like Nesta, and he's 36 on the game now, he'll still be as good. He'll still be getting really high ratings if you retrain him as a sweeper. That's one thing you always want to check. It's always worth on the training as well. Just on the training screen, set up a training routine for a sweeper. So you want to go new position, sweeper. Always have it central as well. And then I usually have, just so they don't get too knackered, I just have intensive tactics. It doesn't kill their match fitness or match condition. So that would be how I'd set up the training regime. And any player you want to use on that, you want to just retrain them as a sweeper. Most DCs can play sweeper. Obviously someone like him I probably wouldn't use, but anyone with high positioning marking, same with DMCs. Like let's have a look at a DMC here. Who would be a good sweeper? Like he would probably be okay. What about this guy? Not as good. Looking for someone who's got really good defensive or physical attributes, really, who could retrain there. Like he could, high strength. Because we're obviously playing at the standard of the Russian league, so you could get away with doing it in this league. It'll be a bit different in the Premier League, obviously, when the attacking attributes are a lot higher. So, but for the Russian league, he would be fine to do that. But anyway, if you are double sweepering, what are the things you want to look for? I generally look for general defensive attributes, so like positioning, marking, some physical attributes, and just generally all round good defenders. On top of that, I'm looking for things like, where's on the attribute screen? I'm looking for quite decent passing, decisions. What else? Yeah, I'd probably say that. You don't really need pace. You don't have to be too concerned with pace if you're just using them more as defenders and sweepers with no arrows. You're just literally wanting them sitting back from a deeper position, and then obviously you're just setting them to man mark the opposition strikers who they're going to mirror. So a forward right centre would be marked by your left-sided one, and vice versa. So that's why you always want to check the opposition instructions before the game or during the game, because the AI will always make changes as well. What also as well in possession, the advantages you've got if you wanted to set your goalkeeper on short passing, and if you've got a really good one that can actually pass the ball out, you want to set one of your sweepers as playmaker, and then really mix up the passing with them, either on mixed, direct, or long. It's a bit worrying if the AI are playing high press, because they're going to put a lot of pressure on your sweepers unless they're very good with the ball. So these are things you've got to consider. But obviously, if your sweeper's that good, you can still set him on playmaker against the press. And once he's beaten the press, you're on the attack. If he's always going to find the attacking players or out wide, it's the same thing here. You can do pass to right or pass to left. So say you've got a couple of small technical players up front, you'll be better off maybe playing it to the flanks, which you can do in the options. So you do something like direct to the left and the other one direct to the right. Or say he's not very good physically, you could just have him on centrally. So you could say, for example, you just want him to get it long, so you'd have it long, pass to right, left, or centre, which is what I do sometimes. So it all depends on how you want to set it up. Obviously, as well, if you're just going for just more of a pure defensive performance, say you're a League 2 team against a Premier League team in the FA Cup, and you're playing on the update packs or something like that, or you're just a base game where your team's not that strong against the opposition, then you can do things like you're just simply using them purely as defenders. So really you just want them to be getting them to clear their lines, so you will be using direct or long with them. And the same with the goalkeeper, I probably wouldn't risk having him on short. I'd just have the goalkeeper then on direct or long as well, because you don't really want to be passing out, and I certainly wouldn't be using them as playmakers. So what are the advantages here? You're not worried about pace from the AI, because you could have two 36, 37-year-old sweepers that have just got really high position in marking, just some really nice sweet attributes, which are just going to enhance defending deep. And obviously, as I said, you're just really silly if you're going to use offside trap, because that's the whole reason why you're using sweepers. You're not playing a high line, and that's why a Non Wib Wob double sweepering can be very, very potent. The only time I don't man mark with the sweepers when I'm using deep sweepers is if the AI are using like those type of tactics where they got three there. I'd just zonal two and then just get the middle central defender to mark the runner, the AMC runner, man mark. With free defender tactics as well, you want this guy to be doing something in a double sweeper system. Like players like Igor Tudor on the game, for instance, who can play into midfield, and he's probably got like attribute sets you can use or enhance. So say Bavakin's Igor Tudor. How I would use Igor Tudor here, I'd have him forward back on the set pieces. Or what I do with sweepers as well, I don't have them go forward if I'm double sweepering. I just leave them permanently back there, just so you've got a super enhanced defensive line on both of them, so on the right side and the left side. And I'd use Bavakin as more as the link between, because you're going to be much deeper set, I'd have Bavakin as the link between defence and midfield. So what would I set, if say Bavakin's Igor Tudor, what would I set him on? Knowing Igor Tudor's stats, I'd probably have him on run with ball, hold up ball and short passing, just to link with the midfield. I might even have him on pressing as well and hard tackling, just going by Tudor's attributes. And depending if I was at home and away, I might possibly put him on zonal marking away from home, and at home I'd probably have him on that. So he's got forward runs added to him as well. So you think of the overload in the centre midfield areas there. You've got an AMC going into the gap, and then you've got him always constantly supporting with the cover of the two sweepers there. It's all about getting it right for the attribute sets. So like if you did have an Igor Tudor there in the centre DC slot, then because you're obviously just using the sweepers as pure defensive units here, just pure rocks, at the back. So then again you'd have to think about the distribution here from the sweepers. Like you might want to go centrally with them so they're always hitting Tudor. Like Eagle Tudor's that good a player. If you're going to use that arrow, you could enhance him further by setting him as one of the playmakers or the only playmaker, which is always a good option. Also as well, players like Eagle Tudor are going to be really good getting on in the end of crosses and things. So it's also going to how your wide play is affected. So you'd have to rebalance the attributes for what you're going to be using as the wide player as well. So what are the main advantages of using sweepers? Yeah, you're literally much more geared towards a defensive and counter-attacking game before you've even started to use the settings here, which can enhance it with certain teams, but I generally don't actually add the settings themselves unless I'm like an AC Milan where their whole squad's set up to counter-attack on the game. They've just got such an incredible midfield like Pirlo, and you've got Ambrosini and Gattuso that are just, they can just kill opposition midfields on the right settings. So yeah, I thought this would be quite interesting because there's so many different ways you can use a sweeper, and it's all depending on the player's attributes and what your team strategy is for the player. So you could even triple sweeper in a way if you've got like loads of sweepers and sweeper DMC. But always make sure as well that on the training, because you want their positional, because it might show sweeper on the interface, but they might only have 16 out of 20 for the sweeper position. So you always want to make sure that after a year or two on the sweeper settings, their positional play will be 20 for sweeper as well. It's only going to enhance them further. They're going to get better average ratings and they're going to win more duels and battles against the strikers that they're marking or zonal or areas they're zonally marking. So anyway, thanks a lot. Bye.